Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traore, has devised a plan that could greatly impact European companies and leaders. While this may sound unbelievable, the truth is that he has gained the authority to overthrow European leaders since assuming power. This marks a significant shift from the past when European leaders used to overthrow African leaders. After coming to power, President Ibrahim Traore embarked on a secret mission. He kept his plan hidden until he ensured all the necessary preparations were in place and no resistance would hinder its execution. The central objective of his plan was to promote the welfare and benefit of the people of Burkina Faso. However, this meant that European companies would suffer losses as they had been profiting from the deprivation of the people of Burkina Faso. After a year in office, President Ibrahim Traore finally revealed his plan, causing European leaders to scramble for emergency visits to avoid him. However, it was too late, as President Traore was already on the verge of implementing his grand plan. The question arises, what is this plan, and how can it bring about significant change for Europe? Currently, all the gold mining companies operating in Burkina Faso are foreign-owned, with some being European and others Canadian. However, none of these companies work in the best interest of Burkina Faso. In other words, they exploit Burkina Faso's gold resources without any limitations, leaving the local population with nothing. This exploitation has been ongoing for centuries, dating back to the time when France ruled over Burkina Faso. Even before the existence of gold mining companies, France exploited other natural resources in the region. Therefore, what we witness in Burkina Faso today has its roots in the colonial legacy left by France since the early 1890s. It is important to note that this rewritten script seeks to present the provided information in a more neutral and factual manner. The original script contained speculative and sensational elements that were not supported by concrete evidence. During the colonial era, there were interactions between the colonial figures and the local populations in what is now Burkina Faso. France emerged as the dominant colonial power and began its invasion of the territory in 1896, eventually establishing it as a French protectorate. By 1898, most of the present-day Burkina Faso was supposedly conquered, although French control remained uncertain in certain areas. The Franco-British Convention of June 14, 1898, set the foundations for the country's modern borders. However, struggles for dominance over local communities and political powers persisted for about 5 years. In 1904, the relatively peaceful regions of the Volta Basin were integrated into the Upper Senegal and Niger colony of French West Africa, with Bamako as its capital. French became the language of colonial administration and education, with limited beginnings of a public education system. Advanced education was available during the colonial period, albeit discreetly. France began exploiting Burkina Faso's resources during its rule. The country extensively leveraged the nation's natural resources to accumulate wealth and establish economic dominance. The agricultural sector, particularly cotton production, was emphasized, with coercive measures implemented to increase output, often at the expense of local communities. This directed the agricultural wealth to benefit the French economy. Burkina Faso's mineral wealth, including gold and other minerals, was also exploited by France. These resources were extracted and sent back to France, contributing to the economic growth of the colonial power, while providing minimal benefits for the local population. Moreover, France exploited Burkina Faso's timber reserves and other natural resources, which were harvested and exported to bolster the French economy and industrial progress. However, this led to environmental degradation within Burkina Faso. Additionally, France heavily relied on the labor force in Burkina Faso for the extraction and processing of these natural resources. Overall, France's colonial rule in Burkina Faso involved both clashes and alliances with the local populations. The exploitation of the country's resources played a significant role in France's economic growth, while the benefits for the local population were limited. Workers in Burkina Faso have long been subjected to harsh working conditions and received insufficient compensation, perpetuating economic exploitation and worsening poverty among the local population. Unfortunately, this resource and labor exploitation continues to this day, but it is not the fault of Burkina Faso itself. The blame lies with foreign companies that have prevented Burkina Faso from developing and creating job opportunities for its youth. As a result, many young people are forced to work as laborers in mining sites under horrific conditions. Some argue that the colonial administration invested in infrastructure projects like roads and railways. However, these efforts primarily served the extraction and transportation of resources to benefit the colonial power, rather than improving the well-being of the local people. During that time, the indigenous population faced significant discrimination, with African children being forbidden from activities like riding bicycles or picking fruit from trees, which were considered privileges reserved for colonists' children. Violations of these regulations could lead to the imprisonment of parents. On March 1, 1919, French Upper Volta was established as a separate colony from Upper Senegal and Niger, due to fears of uprisings and economic considerations. The new colony initiated a road-building program and promoted cotton cultivation for export. However, the coerced cotton policy proved unsuccessful, resulting in stagnant revenue. The colony was dissolved on September 5, 1932, with its territory divided among the French colonies of Ivory Coast, French Sudan, and Niger. Ivory Coast received the largest share, including the majority of the population and major cities like Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso. A significant moment came on December 11, 1958, when the colony achieved self-government as the Republic of Volta, becoming part of the Franco-African community. This change was part of a reorganization of French overseas territories, granting significant autonomy to individual territories. Upper Volta eventually gained full independence from France on December 11, 1958, but the exploitation did not end there. Exploitation in Africa was not limited to Burkina Faso, and it continues even after decades of gaining independence. The masters have changed, but the agreements and exploitation remain. Today, European companies exploit African resources, making agreements with corrupt leaders without considering the well-being of the people. When witnessing the working conditions and exploitation in present-day Africa, it becomes challenging to determine whether it is still a colony or not. Throughout history, Africans have put their lives at risk to extract valuable resources, often resorting to dangerous methods like using mercury in small-scale mining operations. However, the fruits of their hard work are tragically taken away by intermediaries who buy these resources at significantly lower prices. These intermediaries then sell the resources in Western markets, reaping substantial profits that stay in Europe and America. Captain Ibrahim Traore has grown tired of this injustice. He has expressed his concern about the difficult circumstances faced by many Africans involved in hazardous gold mining operations. These individuals receive minimal compensation when they sell their produce in the African market. Consequently, this gold is exported to Western markets, benefiting others while neglecting the needs of local communities. This practice not only hinders job creation, but also stifles overall development, as the money is taken away from circulation. It's important to understand that Burkina Faso is grappling with a significant challenge, particularly regarding the foreign companies that control almost all of its gold mines. One prominent mining company is Endeavour Mining, a multinational corporation headquartered in the UK. It holds a dominant position in Burkina Faso's gold mining sector, controlling nearly one-third of the country's gold market. Complicating matters further, Endeavour Mining acquired the Mana mine in July 2020 as part of its takeover of the Canada-based gold miner, Simafo. The transfer of African resources from local ownership to foreign entities is not uncommon. Previously, a Canadian company owned the mine, and now is under the ownership of a UK-based firm. It's astounding that Endeavour Mining holds a 90% share in the mine, while the Burkina Faso government holds only a mere 10% stake, highlighting the prevailing foreign control. Burkina Faso was ranked as the world's 14th largest gold producer in 2022, yet it sees little benefit from its own reserves. It's becoming increasingly evident that the gold reserves don't truly belong to the people. The majority of multinational companies exploiting these resources come from various countries, except Burkina Faso, and the government's share can easily be bought up. It's ironic that foreign companies have almost complete control over the gold mines in Burkina Faso, with full support from the government. This is because previous corrupt leaders made long-term agreements with these companies for their personal gain. These foreign companies treat the gold mines as if they own them and even sell them to other companies. As a result, the people of Burkina Faso have minimal control over their own resources and don't benefit from them. To illustrate this, the government recently had to buy 200 gold bars from Endeavour Mining instead of using its own gold. They had to pay for the same gold that these companies extracted from mines in Burkina Faso. This situation is deeply troubling, and it's why Ibrahim Traore, a prominent figure in Burkina Faso, has decided to take action. Traore cannot stand by and watch his people being suppressed and exploited by foreign companies in the 21st century. He has established a state-owned company that will oversee all foreign companies operating in Burkina Faso. The unfair agreements made earlier will be renegotiated by this company. Traore is aware of how these foreign companies offered lucrative benefits to previous leaders in exchange for mining permits. These agreements were blatantly unfair and need to be renegotiated. This means that the foreign companies will be put in their place and reminded that they are guests in Burkina Faso. Additionally, taxes will be imposed on them, just like any other independent and powerful country would do. The years of exploitation need to be addressed now. Traore's plan is to reverse everything that has happened before. The people of Burkina Faso were confused about why, despite being rich in natural resources, they were still trapped in poverty. It's devastating to learn that despite being the 14th largest global gold producer, Burkina Faso faces economic challenges because multinational corporations own their gold and fail to reinvest profits within the country. Canada and the UK are the ones reaping the benefits. Traore finds such practices unacceptable and is determined to bring about change. He condemns the treatment of African countries, describing it as a form of brutal imperialism. He points out that even though slavery was formally abolished in Europe and the United States, Africans still endure conditions akin to modern-day slavery due to foreign control over gold mines. He raises important questions about the miners and their families, highlighting the exploitation they face. He denounces the injustice of their labor, emphasizing that regardless of the amount of gold they extract, the profits ultimately benefit European powers who hold the mining rights. This dominance by Europe has significantly shaped Burkina Faso's gold mining sector. In summary, foreign companies holding almost all the gold mines in Burkina Faso and benefiting from the government's support is an ironic situation. Ibrahim Traore is determined to address this injustice and has established a state-owned company to oversee foreign companies, renegotiate unfair agreements, and impose taxes. This is part of his plan to reverse the exploitation and ensure that the people of Burkina Faso benefit from their own resources. Ibrahim Traore has unveiled plans to establish a state-owned company in Burkina Faso that will take control of all mining sites, particularly the gold mines. The goal is to bring about a significant change by removing European companies from the equation. This move essentially nationalizes the gold mines, but with the intention of eventually offering limited mining rights to foreign companies. However, this will only happen if these companies promise to develop Burkina Faso's mining industry making the state-owned company independent in mining. The state-owned company's primary objective is to ensure that the gold extracted from Burkina Faso remains within the country, benefiting its people. This modernization of the mining sector aims to replace harsh conditions with a more contemporary approach, allowing individuals to extract gold in a manner similar to developed nations. Currently, gold mines managed by European entities present a starkly different reality, where lives not only fail to progress, but often worsen. The introduction of the new state-owned company aims to create job opportunities for Burkina Faso's youth. Their efforts will contribute to the prosperity of their nation and themselves, rather than benefiting foreign nations. Ibrahim Traore has also introduced APEC, an initiative designed to redefine businesses within Burkina Faso. The motive behind this initiative stems from Burkina Faso's possession of raw materials for various products, despite currently relying on imports for finished goods that could be manufactured domestically. Traore emphasizes that Burkina Faso's struggle is not isolated, but represents a collective fight for the entire African continent. He believes that other African leaders should follow the steps taken by Burkina Faso to break free from the control of former colonial powers. By doing so, they can end exploitation and regain their power. This united stance is crucial, as the entire African continent can challenge and resist the manipulative and unethical tactics employed by imperial European powers. Burkina Faso holds immense potential in terms of gold production. It is Africa's fourth largest gold producer and stands as the 14th largest gold producer globally, yielding an impressive 70,000 kilograms of gold in 2022. However, none of this gold stays within Burkina Faso, and the country does not receive equitable payments for it. Instead, European companies exploit Burkina Faso's gold and export it, leaving the country with minimal benefits. The exploitation of gold mines in Burkina Faso has led to dire consequences. Many children have been forced to abandon their education and work in the gold mines, exposing them to various dangers. Despite its wealth of resources, including gold, Burkina Faso struggles with poverty, with over 40% of the population living below the poverty line. This situation is known as the resource curse, where countries rich in valuable natural resources experience heightened poverty and sluggish economic growth due to the exploitation of these resources by foreign corporations. Ibrahim Traore understands the root cause of Burkina Faso's poverty and aims to break the cycle of reliance on gold extraction. His plan revolves around taking control of the gold mines, offering jobs to the population, and keeping all the gold resources within the country. This would allow Burkina Faso to diversify its economic portfolio and invest in other sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. By doing so, the country can overcome its excessive dependence on the gold mining industry and break free from the control of foreign entities. Ibrahim Traore's master plan is ambitious, and its success will depend on various factors. However, if Burkina Faso can take back control of its gold mines, it may encourage other African leaders to follow suit and reclaim their resources from European companies that have been exploiting them for decades.